All right, what's up, peoples? What's up, filmmakers and film enthusiasts? Welcome to Video Village. I'm your host, Moski, and today I have with me Miss DP extraordinaire, Alexxiss S. Jackson, aka SF Poetic. Before I get into your bio, what does the SF Poetic mean?
Well, I used to do slam poetry when I was in college at the University of Michigan, Go Blue. And I did slam poetry when I was there. And so it was kind of an artistic alias that I picked up through me doing slam poetry. And then I just kind of shifted it into being something that I use for all of my art form, which is mostly video now.
Okay. Now, on set, do you go by S? Do people just scream SF?
Really, the only people that really call me that at this point are people that know me. I use it for music videos because I would say that my two things that I do predominantly are, working as a director of photography and then doing music videos as a director and DP. So I put SFP on my music videos because that's what I used to use it for.
Okay.
But I put like Alexxiss Jackson parentheses SFP. Like I mostly just go by my name.
Okay.
That's all a part of my existence.
Okay. A woman of many talents. I feel you. I'm getting to your bio. Alexxiss Jackson was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. Woo woo. From a very early age, she was aspired to be a visual storyteller. She made her first film at 8 using a family camcorder, starring her collection of Transformers and Barbie dolls. Now an internationally awarded artist, Alexxiss has directed, produced, filmed, and edited award-winning music videos, worked as director of photography on numerous pieces, including music videos, short films, commercials, and interviews. And you touring internationally with a band to create their tour video, edited a feature film, and more. Man, you stay busy. Thank you for taking 30 minutes out of your busy schedule to kick it with your boy.
Absolutely. With the Michigan connection and the Detroit connection, and I just love it's given me my entire life how you have all of this magnificent like Detroit Lions, Michigan, like all this stuff behind you. So there's no way I turn around and I was at the very least look at that stuff.
Thanks for the love. I appreciate it. Got a rep. Lions hurt my heart. Thank God for Michigan basketball because they're the only one giving us something to root for right now.
I think people understand how hard it is to be a Lions fan. Like it's just heartbreaking every single year. And every single year they do just a little bit to get your hopes up, and then it's like
Yeah. It's like I tell people, it's like being in a bad relationship. You got to leave, but every season we come back and one more time. We're gonna give it one more time.
We think it's about to be like we think they changed. Like you said, it's a bad relationship where they say I've changed, maybe I've changed, and then you start believing it, and it looks like they've changed, and just then right back to the same old Lions.
Yeah, but you gotta love it though. Yo, tell me about this Amy Poehler hookup you have on your Instagram. What was the whole dynamic behind that?
Well, I was featured on Amy Poehler's Smart Girls recently, which was incredible. It really meant a lot to me, especially in terms of seeing not just the kind of outpouring that I got from like my peers and colleagues and friends, but just strangers on, the Amy Poehler Smart Girl social media that were saying that it resonated with them or inspired them or kind of sharing their own kind of stories and anecdotes about being a woman in production and being on sets where they were the only woman and the way that played out for them. So it was so dope in so many ways to get that opportunity to have a platform to talk about what it's like to be a woman in production and to inspire other people to, keep doing it or, feel a little bit more inspired that day. It was really, really cool.
Okay.
So basically, the producer for that, hit me up about that and asked me if I was interested in being featured. And I was like, absolutely, yeah.
Like you gonna say, nah, I'm good.
right. Exactly. So, exactly. So, yeah, it was really dope, and I've definitely, like I said, gotten like kind of an outpouring of love from people, not just in my circle, but just other women that followed their social media and got something out of what I said.
Yeah, I remember, well, we met, to tell the people, we met at the MRAC Film Festival, where you were on the panel showcasing your film along with my wife, Nikki Lynch. And I remember during the break or the intermission, you had said your experience on set, people automatically looked at you as the makeup woman or the the script supervisor or whatever female role.
It happens all the time. Like, I literally, like, there was one time, I'm going to try to talk about this without naming any names or incriminating anyone, but there was one time when this person who I, like, every single time they saw me, I had a camera in my hand. And at one point they're like, oh, do you do makeup too? I'm like, why would I do makeup too? Like, would you ask a man that was a camera operator or a director of photography if he also did makeup? No, absolutely not. It wouldn't even occur to you. And, you know, situations of being on set being like, oh, are you so-and-so? Like a girl that was a makeup artist. And I'm like, nope, that's not me. Like, my name's Alexxiss. And they're like, oh, well, you know, they were talking about so-and-so who's in the makeup department. I'm like, I'm not in the makeup department. I'm a camera operator. Women can be that too, you know? And I get it, and that's of course no shade to makeup artists, because that's a very important aspect of production. Is a team sport at the end of the day. So the makeup artist does a job that's important. No shade to them whatsoever, but just this idea of people making that assumption and the ways that that manifests itself, because the same way that people look at me and they see a makeup artist, when I tell them I'm a director of photography or a camera operator, they're like, oh, you don't look like a camera operator or a director of photography. And then they're like, I read this quote from another female DP that said that there's an assumption of capability when it comes to men and an assumption of incapability for women. And I feel like that's something that a lot of women in the camera department run into, is people just automatically looking for, maybe not just off the bat, like, I bet she doesn't know what she's doing, but just looking for little holes to kind of confirm the belief that they already have. So, yeah.
And here's my thing. There are, when the female photographer or videographer show up to a wedding, nobody says anything. But in film, why is it that when it comes to the position of a DP, it's like taboo to be like, oh, I'm the female, I can do this thing. But if you was doing a wedding, nobody would say nothing. We see female photographers, videographers in every aspect in any other industry with a camera. But when it comes to the moving picture industry, it's like, you're not supposed to be doing that. Go over here.
Exactly. I mean, when you look at the statistics, you know what I mean? Like, if you look at the top 250 films of 2017 that came out of, you know, mainstream Hollywood, 4% of those had a woman cinematographer. And if you like take that down to the top 100 films of 2017, it's 2%. So that means 2 out of 100 films, the top 100 films that came out of Hollywood last year, had a female cinematographer. You know, the American Society of Cinematographers is only 4% women. This year was the first year that a woman was even nominated for Best Cinematography in the history of the Academy Awards. This was the 90th Academy Awards. So 90 of them, no women whatsoever nominated for Best Cinematography. So I don't know. It's just like one of those things that's endured even more than as other strides have been made, as women have been directing more or producing more. For some reason, like, the camera department just like is crawling slowly. And I think it kind of has to do with what I was saying a second ago and what you were saying. For whatever reason, people just don't think woman when they think director of photography. I posted a picture on Facebook from a shoot that I did 2 years ago where I was the director of photography, and on the slate it said cameraman, you know? So I drew an arrow to it and I was like, patriarchy, you know, because it says cameraman Alexxiss Jackson. And it's like they're just automatically on the slate assuming it's okay. So I don't know, it's definitely getting better, but it's been the slowest climb out of production.
Yeah, because people don't even look at like female directors in a different light than they do DPs. It's like, is it the equipment? Speaking of equipment, your post about the easy rig that really wasn't so easy.
And I was talking to somebody happy about that the other day too. Like I don't have one, but I do have to get like a special easy rig vest made for women, because the one that they have is not. It's made for like just flat, and I'm not that, you know what I mean? So I can't even wear it really, because since it doesn't lay flat on my back, it puts this really bad pressure on my spine because it doesn't fit correctly. So yeah, it's the same thing as the slate. You know, these pieces of equipment are coming out specifically designed for men, and it kind of becomes a chicken and the egg thing. Like, is that because people are expecting men to do this and are making equipment for men and are kind of making it more difficult for women to do this because women don't have an easy rig vest off the bat? You know, yeah, it's just so many layers. Like, you start peeling it all back.
Now, the easy rig, what does it do for people that don't have it, never used it, or could you explain?
Oh, absolutely. So the easy rig is basically a vest with a pole that comes out of it and a string so that you can hang a camera rig in front. So it's basically a way to handhold heavy like camera builds. So for example, I'm an owner operator of a Blackmagic Ursa, the original big body one, which once you throw a battery and a lens and a matte box and all that stuff, it's clocking in at about 25 pounds. So when you have a 25-pound camera that's huge, you know, you can't really do this with it without additional support. So an easy rig is basically designed so that you can hang that camera rig or hang, you know, like a gimbal system or other stabilization system and handhold it without having to support all that weight in your arms.
Wow. Now, can you get through like 2 or 3 takes, or after the third take, you like, all right, let me take this off?
Like, literally, like for example, on one of the music videos that I sent to you, and it was super unfortunate. That was really the shoot that made me give up on the easy rig, because I had used it before, but with this shoot, you know, we were shooting out near a railroad, and so, you know, we had to get out there and like carrying the equipment out there, and then got to the point that by the time I even got to the railroad, my back was already killing me because I just couldn't get the easy rig to lay flat. So me and my crew are trying to like adjust it or like scoot it up on me so that it's just not designed for my body, you know? So that was really kind of when I gave up on the easy rig then, because I couldn't even really make it through. I don't think I made it through any takes. I made it to the railroad, and then I took it off and had the guy who was working security for me. I was like, can you just wear this? And I'm gonna still, you know, do all the framing and adjust you and adjust the camera, but I can't do it. And he was fine because it's built for him. You know, it's built to distribute the weight of the camera correctly on him, but not for me.
I understand. Now let's talk about your video together with Shy Stimuli. Did I say that right?
Yeah, Shy Stimuli.
You directed that and shot it, or?
Yeah, directed, DP'd, edited.
Oh, he was the one-man band, the one-woman band.
Well, a lot of times with music videos, depending on, because I love music videos, like that's really kind of what I'm most passionate about, and I enjoy being able to sometimes take on music videos even if the band or the artist doesn't have thousands of dollars worth of a budget for me to hire an entire crew. So being able to kind of be a one-woman band, like you said, sometimes gives me the flexibility to take those work with those artists or bands that don't have thousands of dollars yet. So yeah,
they love that. You know, like the more cost, the less cost is the better. So
yeah.
So tell me about your experience with shooting that. Was it a hot day, cold day, or how tired were you after? Was it a one-day shoot, or how long was it?
It was in November of 2016 when we shot that. So they didn't release it for a while because the kind of coincide with the artist's album being released. But that video is actually the one where we had the railroad shoot where I gave up on the easy rig forever. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and that music video, the reason why I sent that to you, even though it's a little old, is because that music video is always going to have a special place in my heart because of the subject matter. And we kind of weave things through 3 different historical time periods, like late 1800s, 1960s, and today. And with the same characters reappearing in different, you know, historical times, kind of like the Next Lifetime video by Erykah Badu, except for this was about like social justice and police brutality against Black Americans and stuff like that.
Okay.
So it was a lot of fun. We also, for the performance stuff, we had a bunch of kids singing the song. And one of the moments that sticks out to me the most from that shoot is there's this little girl, and she gave me like a flower, and I still have that flower. It's dead, of course, but like I still have it. And she just had this look on her face, and I just got this idea of her being, like 4 or 5 and thinking like, oh, I want to grow up and be a camera operator or a director when I get older. Because sometimes in order to envision yourself doing something, you have to see somebody that looks like you doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So that meant the world to me. Overall, it was a really good shoot. The video was really well received. It got written up and kind of critiqued by a couple different like online hip hop magazines and stuff like that. And it was dope. It's going to be one of my favorite children for forever. All of my music videos are by children. So that's going to be one of my favorite children from here on out. Okay.
Now, you had no production assistants or anyone to help you like crowd control or anything like that? Or
I had a crew. So generally, going back to the whole idea of being a one-woman band, I generally do all of the pre-production by myself. Okay. These days, I almost always have somewhat of a crew with me. So I have a gaffer that I work with a lot, Zach Martin. I have my my camera department, my squad, all girls, my first AC and my second AC that I work with all the time. So even though I do all the pre-production and all the post-production by myself, I almost always have a crew on set, either as first AC, second AC, gaffer, Griffin Electric. So, because there's just too much going on set for me to be doing everything by myself.
Okay.
Not conducive to getting anything done.
I thought you were coming off as the superwoman. I'm like, your phone about to be blowing up,
Like I'm going around and like hanging lights and then running camera. Like, no,
Now, talk about your film journey from Detroit to Atlanta and everywhere in between. Like, how'd you end up here?
So I'm originally from Detroit. Went to film school at the University of Michigan. Go Blue. I can never say University of Michigan without saying Go Blue. Went to film school there. I also did the summer film program at the University of Southern California. And when I first got my degree, my focus was really more so post-production. I started off in post. I did an internship at a post house right outside of Detroit called Ringside Creative, Viceno Park. They've changed their name since then, but I really kind of started off in post, and then I got, some pretty cool editing credits along the way. I was hired to edit a feature film by Upload Films, which unfortunately was never released, which I still the company ended up having to shelve it. I don't even know exactly what happened. That's a whole nother story. Anyways, like probably midway through my career, I kind of shifted from doing post-production to focusing on cinematography. And I, like I said, was in Detroit. I was living in Ann Arbor for a while, like after I graduated from college. And then finally, I started getting hired on TV shows down here, like working in the production office at Tyler Perry Studios and BET. And so the thing about production is sometimes the turnaround is so fast. So like, we need you tomorrow. Like, can you be here tomorrow? And I would be in Michigan, like trying to get down here. And finally I was like, I need to just go ahead and move. And it was definitely the right move for me in a lot of ways. I've worked with different facets of the entertainment industry and the film and TV. Like I said, I've worked in production offices. I've worked in camera departments. I've worked in post. So eventually it was just a matter of wanting to have a varied skill set, because I feel like having a varied skill set, one, gives you multiple streams of income, but also makes you better at each thing. Like being an editor makes me a stronger director of photography. Understanding how all of the cogs in the machine fit together, make it easier for you to relate to the other people on your crew and understand what everybody else is doing, and also just makes you stronger at what you're doing. Saying all that to say that I've always been kind of focused on having a varied skill set, but eventually as my career went on from, like you said, like Detroit to the University of Michigan to here, it got to a point where I really kind of found my niche, and I was like, this is what I enjoy the most. This is what I feel like I'm best at. And so what I consider myself to be now more so than anything is a director of photography and a music video director. Okay. And that's kind of my focus.
Okay, cool. And you've been in Atlanta how long?
6 years? That's crazy.
Okay.
Oh, by so fast.
Yeah, it's about the same time I've been here. Now, the title director of photography, I've seen on behind the scenes sets where the director of photography, he's chilling and he's telling like all the other cameras of what to do, and then some director DPs will have their hands on the camera. Like, which one? What's the difference between the one that says, "Hey, do this," and the one that says, "Hey, I'm gonna handle the camera"? Which one?
I'm definitely a hands-on camera kind of person. It's funny that you asked me that. I was reading something about Roger Deakins, who is a massive cinematographer. He actually just won his first Oscar after 14 nominations for Blade Runner this year.
Okay, yep.
But I was reading this interview with him, and he was talking about how he feels like it's so much easier for him to operate the camera, because if he sees something he wants to reframe, he can just do it instead of having to tell somebody else to do it. And I think that that's such a valid way of describing that. I like to have my hands on the camera and feel like I'm maneuvering or I'm getting the best shot that I can. But my understanding, I'm not union, but I believe that as a union DP, you're not supposed to operate camera in some markets. That's my understanding, but I could be wrong. So if I'm wrong, somebody out there, you know better, my bad. But I think that, you know, sometimes I don't have my hand on the camera, like if I'm working with a Steadicam operator, for example, because then the camera's on the Steadicam and the Steadicam operator is controlling the camera movement, and maybe I'm watching on a monitor then. But, you know, for the most part, I personally prefer to have my hands on the camera. But if you're doing something where there's multiple cameras running at a time, obviously you're going to need to employ another camera operator. Sometimes there are benefits to taking your hand off the camera and watching the monitor, because maybe you see things that you're not seeing when you're in the middle of it. So I think that it is definitely kind of a personal preference.
Okay.
And there's definitely, what's the word I'm looking for? Like pros and cons to each way.
Okay. I thought it was like levels to it. Once you made it to the part where you telling the other cameraman what to do, you done made it. I'm a real DP now.
Sitting back in your recliner on set with some potato chips and you're on the other hand like, hey, move that over there. That's how you know you've made it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's definitely, like, I do believe, I'm not entirely sure, I do believe that there are some union rules if you are a DP in 600, which is the union for like camera and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
I believe that there are some rules or regulations about being a camera operator and a DP at the same time if you're union. But other than that, I think it's kind of a personal preference. And most of the DPs that I see and follow in mainstream Hollywood tend to have their hands on the camera. Like Rachel Morrison, who was just became the first director of photography, being a director of photography nominated. Pretty much every single picture I've ever seen of her on set, she's, you know, in her eyepiece or on camera. Like I said, Roger Deakins, pretty much every picture I see of him, he's either hands on the camera, or if he's running, you know, like a mechanical arm or something like that, or like a jib, he's operating it. So yeah, it's a preference. It depends. And those, you know, Roger Deakins has definitely made it. Like I said, 14 Oscar nominations, finally getting. So if he's made it and he's still running the camera, then I think it's safe to say that it's just a personal preference.
Now I noticed on your posts, you get real deep with like your descriptions of lenses you use and your cameras. With the fast pace of technology these days, how do you stay on top of the latest and greatest in equipment year after year as a cinematographer? Like, how do you keep up with that stuff?
A lot of internet research, magazines. Like I have a subscription to American Cinematographer, which is the monthly publication by the ASC, American Society of Cinematographers, where they'll talk about the lenses that are being used on various productions, the cameras that they're using. Aries about to come out with like an actual 4K camera, which is a really big deal. You have the Red Monstro that's coming out. It's basically just a matter of, you know, kind of keeping my finger on the pulse and, you know, reading different publications that talk about stuff like that. I follow different blogs that talk about new camera equipment and lenses as they come out. So, and in this industry, especially as a cinematographer, it's imperative that you keep up with stuff like that, because you know, the stuff that I was using when I was in film school, nobody even knows what that is anymore, unless they've been in the game for a really long time. And certainly nobody's using it, you know? So this is one of those industries, really even more so than just your average industry, where it's imperative that you keep up with, you know, new advances in technology so that you're always ahead of the curve.
Okay. Because I'm like, it's so much equipment out there to be between cameras and lenses. Like, I'll let y'all do that as the cinematographers. Y'all keep up with that. As directors, we like to be like, hey, I just want this shot. Go ahead and hook that up.
And that's our job, to know like what the best way is to get that across and visually have that not only look amazing, but fit whatever it is that you as the director is trying to accomplish. So some lenses look better, you know, not better, but some lenses have like a different feel to them in terms of focus, fall off, and contrast that are going to just be better suited for different stories. So I feel like, again, you know, as a director of photography, it's imperative that you are aware of all the tools at your disposal so that you know which tools to use for a given thing, because it's not one size fits all.
Cool. I'm gonna get into our filmmaker quote of the day by director, screenwriter Ed Wood. He says, "Nobody will ever notice that filmmaking is not about the tiny details, it's about the big picture." And if you never heard of Ed Wood, he is probably one of the worst directors of all time, but his movies are so bad that they've become cult classics, which is a movie called Planet 9 from Outer Space. You ever heard of Ed Wood?
The name sounds really familiar, but I'm not calling any details into my head currently.
He was a director back in the 50s. And I picked this quote out specifically for cinematographers. Have you ever been on a set or ever worked with a director or with a crew that you were so into setting up this shot and they were like, come on, we ain't got time for all that. Let's just go.
All the time. Like, there's jokes about that. Like, one of my favorite jokes recently is, why don't directors of photography smoke cigarettes? Because it takes them 2 hours to light it. And I just thought that was hysterical. You know, I think that's a constant thing. Like, almost every single shoot. Sometimes it's worse than others, but you know, most of us as directors of photography, we're really detail oriented, and we want this exact thing to have the right shadow, and we want this thing in the background to be lit because it's important to the story, and we want to make sure that the light is wrapping around the actor's face in the perfect way. Like, absolutely. And so a lot of times, you know, the director or the first AD is going to be like, yo, you know, clock ticking. We gotta get this shot off. We can't be here all day. So yeah. It's about finding that balance. So.
You guys are probably the first AD's worst nightmare. Like, they keeping up the, like, come on, we gotta keep on time, make the day. You over here trying to get the perfect light off the back of the head.
It's like, if you want it to look good, it's gonna take time. Like, do you want it to look good? So yeah.
But then on the flip side, when the movie comes out and everybody is giving it praise of how it looks, then they want to kiss your butt like, oh, that looks so beautiful, but you was rushing me on set, you know.
It's a constant struggle.
Now, what do you like more, directing or cinematography?
Absolutely cinematography. I really only direct music videos. I don't really direct anything else. So while I'm hired as a director of photography on, you know, short films, commercials, what have you, I don't ever direct those really. And I'm not really all that interested in it, honestly. You know, like, I love directing music videos because I love music videos as a medium, and how you have this interaction between the music and what's happening visually, and how you can tell a story that takes place over 3 centuries, or that takes place over the course of 5 seconds if you're, you know, shooting it in super slow motion. So I love the narrative capabilities of music videos, and that's why I enjoy directing them. But other than that, you know, I'm not really a director. You know, I'm a music video director, and then other than that, I work as a director of photography or editor.
Okay. Until 5 years from now, you on the stage getting that Oscar for best director. Like, oh, she said she won that.
I'm trying to stay, you know, go with the flow. Try to stay down to adjust to whatever's happening.
Yeah, but you don't write at all. No screenwriting at all, right? Or
no, I write the concepts for the music videos I do. So pretty much every music video I've done, I came up with the concept, wrote the treatment, and everything. But other than that, which is funny because, you know, I have a dual degree in English and film, and I wanted to screenwrite when I was younger. You know, like that was really, I would say there was a point in high school when I was really adamant about that being what I wanted to do later on. But, you know, like I said about going with the flow and finding things that I enjoyed more, felt like I was better at, you know, I've kind of gotten pretty staunchly into, okay, this is where I'm at. I do music videos and I'm the DP. But like you said, if 5 years from now, you know, something's happening, you know, who knows?
Now, what are your thoughts on music video directors that leave that medium and step into the feature film arena, like Hype Williams did Belly, Benny Boone with All Eyes on Me? What's your opinion on that?
A lot of directors use music videos as a stepping stone, and I understand that. It's funny, I had a conversation with somebody about this like 10 years ago, not to age myself, but where I was talking about how, for me, music videos are not a stepping stone. I understand why people use that to step into features when that's really what they want to do. But like I said, a lot of times people don't respect music videos for the art form that they are in terms of narrative freedom and all of those things. So I'm not saying that all of those directors don't respect music videos as an art form, but I definitely think a lot of directors use that specifically as a stepping stone.
Because when Hype Williams came out with Belly, they was like, oh, it's a 2-hour music video, but it's a hood classic. I still got it on DVD right now. And we all heard the backlash with Benny Boone with All Eyes on Me. So
I think that both art forms, you know, like have the things that are amazing about them and, you know, what have you. So I don't think that there's anything wrong whatsoever with being a director who sometimes does music videos and sometimes does feature films. If you're interested in all of it and you have the eye to do that, absolutely do it. You know, I like the idea of people not being pigeonholed into one thing and having the ability to like fully explore their creative capabilities and all of that.
Exactly. All right, so we're gonna get into my segment called 30 frames per second. In 30 seconds, I'm going to ask you just random questions, and you say whatever comes to mind, whatever answer comes to mind. So, you ready? And grand prize is nothing. All right, here we go. Who would win, Storm or Wonder Woman?
Storm.
Greatest MC Hammer video, Too Legit to Quit or Pump It Up?
Too legit to quit.
Best Detroit movie, RoboCop or Action Jackson or 8 Mile?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I'm gonna say 8 Mile, and I'm gonna possibly regret that later.
Best soundtrack, Above the Rim or Juice?
Above the Rim.
All right, I'll give you one more since your internet was acting crazy. Best man flick, Magic Mike or Chocolate City?
Magic Mike. I've never even actually seen Magic Mike though. It's just not really my thing.
I saw 1 and 2. That is pretty good.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that, you know, swear is one of the best things ever. I'm just like, all right.
See, I wasn't gonna say best chick flick because, you know, when I have male guests, I have to do the chick flick. But since you're the first lady, you know, I have to do the man stuff.
And I don't really watch those. But
you didn't see Chocolate City with I think Genuine?
No. Even though I did have a really big crush on Genuine when I was like, how old was I? I don't remember. But yeah, I had a crush on Genuine like when she first came out. But nah, you good. Now that I would actually be old enough to watch something called Chocolate City, I'm not really interested.
All right, well, we'll go to That's a Wrap. And this is the segment where you tell us your social media, Facebook, what you got coming up next. and what we expect in 2018 from SF Poetic.
Well, I have okay, I'll go in order. So my website is www.sfpoetic.tv. Pretty much all of my social media is at SF Poetic. So that's S is in significant, F is in filibuster, poetic. So that's Instagram, Twitter, etc. I have a music video that I directed and DP'd coming out on this coming Friday, which I don't have dates in my head right now because there's too much going on. But it's a metal video that I did for a metal band based in Alabama, and I'm really excited about that. We use these, I'm going to nerd out about lenses for just 2 seconds. So I use these Zeiss uncoated super speeds, which most lenses have a coating on them that's specifically designed to minimize lens flares, because lens flares are cool when you're doing something like a music video, but not when you're filming Jeopardy. You know, you don't want a lens flare going across Alex Trebek's face. So most lenses have a coating to minimize flares and aberrations and stuff like that. So I use these lenses that specifically have that coating taken off, so you get these really intense lens flares and stuff. And we have them like singing into a total light, so there's this like orange tungsten flare coming out of it. It's one of my favorite shots that I've ever done. So the video that I'm talking about, that's coming out on Friday. I also have another music video that I DP'd for Entertainment Creative Group Productions, and I'm not entirely sure when that's coming out, but I think it's coming up soon.
Okay.
Yeah, other than that, just trying to keep building, keep taking myself to the next level in however that needs to be done, and always trying to make sure that I am empowering and inspiring women and people of color, and especially women of color along the way, because that's really the most important thing to me. No matter like how successful I get, if I don't feel like I've in some way like made it easier or improved the life in the industry and just general, for women and people of color, then I won't feel like I've succeeded. So just trying to make sure I'm always building both of those goals at the same time.
Sweet. And one last thing, we dealt with the whole Me Too movement and all that. What's your thoughts on that before we leave? How did that impact you, and have you seen a difference on how men approach you on set?
I think that I literally just had a conversation about this earlier, and I was saying, what a time to be alive. When you look at historically, like between, I want to say like 1993 and 2016, I was looking at this, and the statistic then was that, out of the top 2,000 films of that time period, 1.8% of them had female cinematographers. It's a time when people are starting to pay attention to those inequities and starting to try to intentionally shift them or ameliorate them. So it's really beautiful to see how so many things that have been taken for granted thus far, like the way that women are sometimes treated on film sets or in the industry generally, how we're at this time where it's kind of being torn all down and burnt to the ground. And I've absolutely seen people paying more attention to that recently, and I think that's beautiful. Like I said, what a time to be alive. So
sweet. Now, since you being from Detroit, I think the Me Too movement will be different, because they'll be like, hey man, I tried to grope Alexxiss, she stole on me. Me too.
No comment. I believe it.
So it'll be slightly different from Michiganders. Well, that's our segment from Video Village with my guest Alexxiss S. Jackson, SF Poetic. I'm your host, Moski. Get at me at Moski24, all my social media platforms. And thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being my guest, homie. I appreciate it.
So much for having me.
All right.
Forever.